talk about sync royalties for a minute. The film and TV community, of course, lives and dies on sync money, but I think a lot of songwriters are not really familiar with what that term means and what's involved in it.
Well, the sync right is it's a species of the reproduction right. It's using a piece of music in synchronized relationship with visual images, audio-visual images. So anytime you have music in a commercial or a TV show or a movie, that's a synchronization right, because you're synchronizing the music with the visual images. And interestingly, two uses that seem very similar can be very different in terms of the sync rights. There's a case involving the use of music for a series of radio commercials, and then the same music was used for a series of TV commercials. And the TV commercials violated the sync right, and the radio commercials didn't.
Interesting.
And the license was just to make the radio commercials. And
Really?
yeah. I'll send you the case.
I'm
if you want
curious
to see it,
about that. Yeah.
You think, well, you use your music for commercial. Yeah, but if it's a radio commercial, you're not using the sync right. You're making a derivative work. You're making a new sound recording, but you're not synchronizing it with
But you're still,
audio
you're still. I thought the copyright law talked about timed relationship between two audiovisual elements, so that you've got.
Yeah, but radio is not audiovisual.
Okay. All right. So because it's not visual.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not. Okay.
Covered by an ASCAP BMI.
Interesting.
It's just covered by ASCAP BMI.
No sync right in audio in just audio
And
material.
just straight audio. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Very interesting.
So that's the sync right, and often because mechanicals are disappearing, that's often now a significant source of income, and it used to be far lesser than mechanical.
And it's real money. I mean, if you're in a band and you get called by some big ad agency and they say, we'd like to use your music in our next Cadillac commercial, think of what great promotion it'll be. Can you give it to us for $100? Probably not a good deal.
Right. Although
Maybe.
Maybe it's a good deal.
Okay.
Well, because
Why?
you'll still get paid performance royalties, and
every time it airs, you're right.
And there are certain groups that drawing a blank, like certain groups that have had success initially because they were discovered through a commercial. I'm trying to remember the name of the Sony group.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, you'll
that's
negotiate
right.
that because for the band, for a new act, that's more valuable to them than the money. So it's a deal you'll do with the devil because it provides an opportunity. For the more established acts, they don't need that. They want the cash, and probably some of them make more from commercial licensing than they do from mechanical royalties. Probably the Stones and Queen and various other acts where you see their music typically used in commercials. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't make more money from licensing than they do from mechanical.
Well, you mentioned the $50,000 TV commercial early on in the panel, and I think that's more we hear about those deals, and I assume that for popular music, if you want to use Pharrell in your you better be ready to pay, and if you're the writer of those tunes, that's some real serious money.
Kurt Chang, yes.
Yeah.
You love to hear those phone calls coming from the ad agencies.
Why don't songwriters and composers get paid for music that's in domestic theaters, like that's in a film that plays in the theater? We didn't discuss Alden Rochelle before we in our previous conversations, but either of you want to talk about the court case that prevents American composers and songwriters from getting paid for their music in theatrical performances?
All yours.
Oh, okay. Well, the idea is that they've already been paid, right? So when they put the music in the soundtrack, they've been paid for that, and there's not a separate performance fee that they get when the film is shown in a theater, right?
And it results from a court case of the theater owners basically suing ASCAP and saying we don't want to have to pay. And in the rest of the world, that's a significant source of income.
Well, just like terrestrial radio in the U.S. has never paid a royalty for performance.
For performance of
sound
recordings.
recordings.
That's
yeah,
right.
Because they just didn't want to pay. And there was no copyright in sound recordings for a very long time. Radio was a well-established business by the time copyright was even recognized in sound recordings. So
So that's currently before Congress. Do you expect that? Do you expect that's gonna? Can you read the tea leaves on this? Is that going to happen?
I don't think anything's going to happen for quite some time in the Congress that we have.
Yeah. Is printed music still an avenue of income for people?
I haven't done a print deal in ages.
It's still in the contract.
I noticed that. I noticed that it was in the. I mean,
It's heavily in the contracts. And
I mean, there are still folios. People, there's still people that buy printed music.
Well, and there are sites on the internet that sell guitar tabs that are licensed,
Okay.
And, that's opened up, I guess, a little bit of revenue. But, Colony Music closed down here in New York. So, if we can't have a sheet music store in New York, and Padelson's closed, I mean, if we can't sell sheet music in Times Square,
Terrible.
But there are companies you can print it off the internet, which it's. But I don't know what the royalty streams are. I don't know how significant they are. But they do exist, and for people studying piano, they don't have to travel to get it. But